Good afternoon, all you beautiful people. It is September the 25th, Friday, September the 25th, 2:32 p.m. Just getting off work. Beautiful sunny Roswell, New Mexico, where it is 95 degrees according to my phone, 108 degrees according to my vehicle, probably somewhere in between the two. It got cold, man. Not cold for people that know what real cold is, but cold enough that if you've been dealing with 110 plus degree summer days working outside, it's a little nippy when it's raining and it's 35 miles an hour winds and it's 45 degrees outside. It got that kind of cold for a couple of days, and then it's been nice. It's been very nice. It's been like, oh, if I could move somewhere where the weather was like this. I'm distracted by my beard. Move somewhere where the weather was like this 24/7, 365, I absolutely would. Which, that's a lie, because there are places like that. Like Puerto Rico, for instance, is 82 degrees every day. Except for in the summer when it's 84 degrees every day. But then, once a year you get the shit kicked out of you by a hurricane. So I won't be moving to Puerto Rico unless I'm doing 6 months on the other side of the calendar from hurricane season for a contract. I would consider that, but I'm not going to Puerto Rico during hurricane season. In the words of The Darkness, it's not for me, not for me, not for me. Ha, ha. I'm in a good mood, if you hadn't noticed. I tend to record when I'm in a good mood. Do you hear that? Did you hear that little thing in my voice right there? That's because yesterday I was not in a good mood. I was getting ready to say I tend to record when I'm in a good mood because I've recorded when I'm in a bad mood, and it's not good. The recordings are not quality. They're not good quality, edifying, uplifting, sending love out into the world kind of stuff. They're not the vibration that I want to send out into the internet to potentially bounce around and make the world a different kind of place. When I'm super angry, sometimes I make funny content. So if I'm finding a way to convert my anger into laughter, then that can be good. It can be therapeutic. But what happened was the other day I smoked some Salvia. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with Salvia, I've never done DMT or LSD. I've also never done mushrooms because I'm legally not allowed to do mushrooms. Actually, that's not true. In the state of New Mexico, it is legal to own and consume, I think even buy and sell mushrooms as long as they are not dried. Which I think is a pretty cool law, because, I didn't talk to the lawmakers, but it feels like to me, Arizona doesn't think, Arizona law, it's not legal to consume mushrooms. Texas, it's not legal to consume psychedelic mushrooms, psilocybin mushrooms. Although Amanita muscaria mushrooms are generally legal, most places there's no ban against those, but the high from that isn't apparently as fun. So the Protestant, Catholic, whatever values, where it's just like anything that's fun needs to be kept in check because pleasure is the devil's gateway into your life. It doesn't affect it's so hard for me to say, Amanita muscaria mushroom, which is it's the Santa Claus mushroom. It's the red mushroom with the white dots. It's the Super Mario mushroom. And apparently it does make you feel like a giant sometimes, according to trip reports. I don't know. Never done that one either. But anyways, I guess New Mexico was like, okay, so we don't care if you eat mushrooms, but we don't want you shipping them to other states. Which of course, you would need to dry them first. Otherwise, they're not going to last very long. So, like, I guess the thought of drying them is kind of like giving away your intentions, potentially, to transport them. And they don't want you taking it away. It's like New Mexico's the cool mom on the block. It's like, yeah, you want to get fucked up on mushrooms, fine, but do it here. Don't take it elsewhere. Don't go out to your friend's house. Be here in New Mexico. Anyways, I don't think most people know that mushrooms are legal as long as they're not dried. But I research drug laws every time I go into a new place, because I think it's ridiculous that anything that you put into your own body is illegal. Strychnine's not illegal. Arsenic's not illegal. Alcohol's not illegal. Tobacco's not illegal. All of these things are horrible for you. But, marijuana, mushroom. I'm not the first person to have this opinion. I think it's ridiculous. And so, I tend to abide by the law, or so I said on a video that I was planning on uploading for public consumption. So because I abide by the law, I've never taken illegal substances. Wouldn't do that. So I always check into the... I do say, though, that's bullshit. Everybody breaks the law. But I do say, like, it's one of my rules to never break a rule you don't understand. To know what rules you're breaking. So I do like to know what the laws are. I don't want to be caught by surprise. And like, oh, I totally thought this was fine. So, anyways, fuck was I going with this? Oh, right. Never done DMT, but from the trip reports, I understand that DMT does a similar thing to Salvia in that it yanks you out of your consciousness into another place. There's no fighting it. You either have a breakthrough experience or you don't. So if you smoke it right, you have a breakthrough experience, and it's this crazy trip. Salvia, on the other hand, most people that I know of, and most of the reports that I've heard, are like, this shit is fucking terrible. It's terrifying. I smoked a hit of Salvia and I got dragged into the pits of hell. Me personally, I love the shit. The first time I smoked it, I walked across, I watched myself walking across, like, as I went into the trip. I watched, and it was legal in the state that I was in, which was Alaska at the time. I don't know if it's still legal there, but it was when I did it. But I was leaning on a wood grain countertop, and I remember clear as day, there were beer bottles and burnt matchsticks on the wood grain countertop. And as I went into this trip, I'd never tripped before in my life on anything. I went into this trip, and I could watch myself along with a bunch of other characters, which the memory's a little foggy on this part, but I believe it was the Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion and all them from the Wizard of Oz movie. I was watching myself in that little group doing that crazy little walk dance that they did with the Scarecrow, but it was across this wood countertop. And then eventually, that was the beginning of the trip, and then I was part of the wood countertop. Only I didn't realize it was a countertop anymore. I thought it was a tree, and this was wood grain. I was inside the tree, and I could hear these voices, which, in hindsight, were the television in the background. But I could hear these voices, which to me were obviously the elves that live in the tree, and so these elves were giving me the rules for being in the magic tree and not getting kicked out. Like, oh, okay. I remember saying to myself, I gotta remember these rules so that when I go back, I can tell Mikey what the rules are. I don't remember what the rules are. I don't even know if I knew what the rules were at the time, or if there even were rules, or if that was just the story that was being told was that I was being told the rules. I don't know if I ever actually was told the rules, if that makes sense. So anyways, I had a great time on Salvia. I've had different experiences on Salvia since then. Every state I go to, the next state that I went to after Alaska was Virginia, and I don't even remember why. I think I was visiting family, but I walked into a head shop or a tobacco shop where they sell loose tobacco. Actually, that's what it was. It was a tobacco shop where they sell loose tobacco, and I was like, "Hey, do you carry Salvia?" And the woman was like, "Why would you ask me such a thing? Salvia is illegal in this state." And I was like, "Whoa, lady, sorry. I just came from a state where it was legal. I didn't know it was illegal anywhere." And that's when I started making a habit of looking up the drug laws everywhere I go. Because, you know, I really upset this lady. And, you know, I felt like she was a real Karen. That word wasn't available to me at the time. So my frustration was doubled because I didn't even have a word for this lady. But, yeah, she was very offended by the fact that I had asked her if she sold a substance that I thought was legal in her tobacco shop. But anyways, I get to Arizona and I find out, oh, hey, Salvia's legal here. It's not legal in Florida, so I never smoked it there. They don't sell it there. And also, like, it was such an intense experience. It was like, I don't know if you can't just like, I'm gonna get a little sideways on Salvia tonight. I don't want to go to Oz, but I'm gonna get a little sideways. There's a truck in front of me. You gotta see this. I don't know if I can turn it around. Can you read that? It says, "Danger, Dracula's Coffin, open only during daylight hours." Everybody's a comedian. Any old who. Hell was I talking about? Oh, so I don't remember experiencing it the first time, but a lot of people report gravity displacement, I think is basically what you would say, which is basically like you feel like instead of falling down, you're falling backwards or you're falling sideways or whatever. It's like gravity is like sucking you towards the wall or whatever. And so like you'll be like gripping the arms of your chair because you feel like you're going to fall backwards into the wall that's behind you. So you feel like you're up in the air falling. It's a very strange sensation. So I've experienced that. I've experienced this feeling like I was incredibly heavy and like reality was stretching and folding around me like taffy, like pulling and stretching and folding. And I remember that at that point it was like I was almost popping through reality into somewhere else, but I wasn't. And I felt like there was somebody there watching me. And I was like, "Let me through! I want to go to the other side!" But it wouldn't let me through. And then I came back from the trip and whatever. I tried it, after listening to some Terrence McKenna, and he was all about mushrooms, and he was also about silence and darkness. And he was like 5 dried grams in silent darkness, and you'll go away. And I was like, so I was like, all right, well, if anybody knows, like, Terrence McKenna. So I tried smoking Salvia in silent darkness, and nothing happens. Or at least nothing happened to me that time. And I was smoking, like, it was the same batch that I had the reality taffy stretch phenomenon. So I think silent darkness is not the way to go with Salvia in particular. But anyway, I had this Salvia experience, this most recent one that I had, because here in New Mexico it's also legal. So this most recent one that I had, I decided, because I've listened to Joe Rogan and Duncan Trussell and fucking a lot of people that are seriously into psychedelics, and they have these different ideas. And so from one of them, I got this idea that like chanting, a lot of chanting, especially in like Eastern disciplines, will sort of build a different framework for the high or the trip or the experience or whatever you want to call it to happen in. So I'm getting ready to smoke some Salvia, and I'm like, hey, I know what I'm going to do. I put on some monks chanting the Om, just that Om, and I put that on, and it did. it did shape the experience. It was very, very strange. There was no visuals. Like, normally there's some pretty extreme visuals, but it was more like just entering the void, like complete nothing. So much so that it's really hard to remember. And I think it's difficult to remember, not because I don't remember it, but because there's nothing to remember. It was just like pure experience without all the other stuff. But that was these things, like you smoke salvia, you go under for like a minute, like 2 minutes, 5 minutes. I smoked it until I lost motor control and dropped the pipe one time, and that's the longest I've ever been under, and I was under for like 15 minutes. Like the first time when I had that whole experience where I went to Oz and everything, I was inside the magic tree, it felt like about 2 hours to me, and then I look up and I'm like, holy shit, what happened? How long was I out? And the guy I was with, he was like 2 minutes, 47 seconds. I'll never forget it. And I was like, oh my God, like this is what's amazing about this, is like I only get 7 years on this planet, but I can take 2 minutes and turn it into 2 hours. And not only is it 2 hours, these are interesting hours. Like, these aren't just standard run-of-the-mill hours. These are interesting hours. So, sorry, I got distracted there for a second because I didn't think I was recording. I was about to be furious! But, what was I talking about? Woo! Man, I am a little bit manic today. Right, so I had this salvia experience. So then I start to come back and I start to like notice the stimulation around me and stuff. And I'm hearing this, like, so you're in both worlds for a minute when you come back. And so I'm hearing this chant in my head that is not the chant that is going on the speaker, because I've got this hooked up to my Bluetooth speaker. It's a Tailgater, not a sponsor, by the way, but I love Tailgater speakers. For my money, best speaker on the market. Tailgater, right? So there's one chant coming over the speaker, and there's one chant in my head, and so I'm halfway regaining. It's sort of like if you've ever had sleep paralysis. When you come back out of it, it's very similar. I sort of like regaining control of myself, and I'm like half cognizant, and I can still hear this shit in my head, but the chant that's coming over the speakers is fucking me up. And I'm like, I gotta get this recorded before I lose it. So I turn off the monks chanting, and the thing that I was hearing in my head was not the om that was coming from the speakers. It was this Urukundo, 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 Urukundo. And I'm glad I recorded it, because like when I tried to Google it later, I was like, this makes no sense, right? Because I tried to Google it later. Hold on a second, this is probably gonna be gross. Well, actually, let me pause this. That's something that I can do. My apologies. I had to spit phlegm out of my window, and I didn't think that would be pleasant for any of you. So, when I tried to recreate it later, when I was thinking about it, I was trying to remember it, it was like some kind of different thing. Now I've done it enough that I remember it now, but I would like coming up with different sounds that weren't actually the sound. Like when I went back and listened to the recording, I'm like, oh shit, that's not what I remember at all. So I'm glad that I recorded it while I was coming out of it, because I would have had it wrong if I would have waited. So there's a takeaway right there. If you're gonna record something out of a trip, record it fucking immediately. Especially if it's like speaking in tongues or whatever. If you get some kind of a nonsense audio message from the entities in the salvia realm or the mushroom realm or the DMT realm, if you're LSD realm or whatever, if you have a breakthrough experience and you get some kind of an audio message that you don't actually understand because it's not in your native tongue, record it immediately. Anywho, there's a point. point. I'm driving around because I don't want to go back to the hotel just yet. There are opinions living in my hotel room with me. And as I've mentioned before, having other live opinions in the room with me can sometimes throw off my my candor. I find it easier to be uninhibited if there's nobody staring at me. I'm strange that way. And the people that live in my hotel room don't seem to understand that you are a forward eye facing predator. That's what you are. And when you point your eyes at me, it indicates to me that you might be considering eating me. And it makes Monkey uncomfortable when other predators stare at him. So, anyways, I'm just kind of driving around in circles. But, hell was I talking about? Right. So, I'm like, oh, well, this is neat. Maybe Urukundo, which I thought of as 4 different words, maybe Urukundo is already a chant in some other religion. Wouldn't that be neat? And so I Googled it. But I used the microphone to Google it. And when I Googled it, it Googled one word, Urukundo. I'm like, oh, okay. And which, by the way, I posted this as a text post on a Midnight Gospel fan page on Facebook, and some guy's like, so you use the Google microphone to record a chant that was inside your head? Like, trying to call bullshit on my story. And I was like, well, no, dude, I had to say it out loud in order to record it. I didn't just record the inside of my head. You fucking asshole. But, yeah, so Urukundo, it's, I can't remember the actual name of the language, but it's one of the main the official languages of the nation of Rwanda. And it means love. And I was like, that's fucking cool. So I get this, like, I've got no connection to Rwanda. I don't know anything. I know a little bit about it now. I know they had this massive genocide in 94. And I understand that Urukundo is kind of like, it's kind of like, you know how Timon and Pumbaa are like Hakuna Matata? Well, the people of Rwanda were like Urukundo. This means love, and this is how we're going to rebuild our nation. I haven't been able to verify any of this, because even though English is an official language in Rwanda, it's very difficult for me to find it. But somebody told me that, so it's a beautiful story, and I'm keeping it, whether it's true or not. If it is true, and one of you knows about it, I'd love, because I asked the person that told me this if they had any resources on this, quote, philosophy of Urukundo, and they didn't ever get back to me on that. So, anyways, that was what happened. So then, like, for a couple days after that, I had this, like, afterglow kind of thing going on, and I was just, like, loving it. I was just, you know, I would think, like, I would start to have, like, an angry or a... First off, I was just chanting it, like, instead of thinking. So, like, I'm going about, whenever you'd have, like, stuff going through your head. I didn't. I was just, like, in my head, I was like, and sometimes out loud, because I talk and sing to myself all the time. People get used to it eventually. They're like, are you nuts? And you're like, nah. And they're like, oh, okay. And then they just get used to the fact that you talk to yourself all the time. It works out well if you're an honest person. Like, if you've got nothing to hide, you can think out loud all you want. It's fine. And secrets are heavy, brother. Set them fucking secrets down. You don't need to carry them. Not the point. The point is, like, for a couple of days, I was fucking floating. Because I got this, like, crazy message from this plant. I don't know where it comes from, but it's not I got this crazy message from this altered state of consciousness. I have a hard time believing that I somehow Sherlock Holmes'd the fucking Rwandan word for love and then like inserted it subconsciously into my trip experience, which would be the skeptical explanation, I would think, for how this. Otherwise, it was just a fucking rant. I don't know where it came from. Maybe like language is kind of built into us, and certain words just resonate. Maybe it's genetic memory, which they're coming to find is actually a real thing. Maybe other people in Rwanda have smoked salvia and gone to the same place mentally that I went to, and that word was left there. I don't know. But either way, from my, I don't know what happened, but from my experience, it was a really cool thing. Like, I felt like, very much, and even if this is completely synthesized and complete bullshit, I very much felt like I went to another place, and the thing that is there sent me back with a chant that means love. And it was just really cool. And so, like, I'd be chanting it all day, and it would fill me with this, like, energetic, just, like, this great energy. I was just full of energy. And, like, I could feel it in my hands, just like when you meditate and you start to, like, really feel the energy. Only I wasn't having to do the meditation to do it. I was just going through my life, just kind of dancing through my life, just and it would build up, and I would feel this love. And it's not like the love that you feel for another person or like whatever, but just like when you have a good experience and you're like, I fucking love this. Like when you love being alive, that kind of love. That's what I was feeling for a couple of days. And so, like, I would have an intrusive thought. I'd be like, why is this asshole in front of me driving so slow? And then instead of like having to yell at myself and be like, stop being so angry, stop, which is kind of an angry way to talk to yourself. Stop being so angry, asshole. I'm saying to myself as I'm trying not to yell at other people. Instead of that, I would just be like, Urukundo, and it would just completely take me like, I wouldn't even have to go through the thought process of, oh, I'm not trying to be this way, I'm trying to be a different way. I would just go Urukundo, and I would be there. I'd be in this other place without having to go, oh, I don't want to be angry, I want to deal with this person in a spirit of love, like this is another human being and they deserve compassion. I have to talk myself out of anger, and then I didn't have to do that for a couple of days. And then it started to slip. And it went from this beautiful thing, and I made a mistake. I fucked up. I said, I didn't recognize what was going on. What was going on is that I was getting angry. And it wasn't working anymore. Okay? And I do believe it made a permanent change, but like, it's like steroids. You take steroids, you get all these gains. And then you lose them when you stop taking steroids, but you don't lose all of them. So, say you gain 20 pounds of muscle while you're on steroids, then you get off steroids and you lose 15 pounds of muscle. But you still gain 5 pounds of muscle, which is fucking great. Now, I'm not advocating steroids, I'm just using it as a metaphor. So in the same way, like, I do think that I had some like spiritual gains, and I put on 20 pounds of love muscle. Yeah, that's right. I got a 20-pound love muscle. Take that however you want. And then I lost 15 pounds of love muscle, and now I got a 5-pound love muscle, which is great. But the anger still started creeping back in, and I automatically, unintentionally, fell into sort of denial, where I thought that I could just, like, oh, I'm not angry, I'm full of love. And I wasn't full of love, I was full of anger, but I was pretending to be full of love, and this is known as repression. And I don't know how much you know about repressed anger, but anger doesn't like being repressed. It finds a way out. So I got so, like, full of this just rattling, vibrating anger that I couldn't stand to be in the same room with another person. And I was like, fuck this at one point yesterday, and I got in my car And I started boogieing down the road. I had to set the cruise control to make sure I didn't get a speeding ticket, because I was like the chick from Vanilla Sky, and I probably shouldn't have been driving. But, you know, I'm a little bit smarter and better at controlling my actions when my emotions are out of control. And so I put on, like, just whatever metal I could think of. Whatever that song is by Avenged Sevenfold is like, I'll make a beast out of myself, get rid of all the pain of being a man. But I'm screaming, like, at the top of my lungs. Fucking tears are streaming down my face. I'm just like angry crying, which I haven't angry cried since I was in grade school. But I was so angry that it was just coming out my fucking tear ducts. And I put on, like, the next song I put on was Bodies by, what's that? You know, Drowning Pool. I couldn't remember the name of the band yesterday either. But fortunately, thanks to the algorithms, after listening to Avenged Sevenfold, I just typed Bodies into YouTube, and YouTube knew what to pull up. So, the bodies, the bodies, and I'm screaming, and I'm putting on some Rob Zombie and some Marilyn Manson, all the metal that I know the words to, that I can scream along with. And I rode for about 20 minutes, and I blew the top end off my vocal cords. And I was talking, like, I can't even impersonate it, but I'm sure I could get there very quickly. If I really wanted to show you what it sounded like, I could pause this and I could sing half a verse of Bodies, and I could come back, because my vocal cords are not back where they were supposed to be. And I didn't know where this video was going to go. I thought I was going to talk about how racist Roswell is. Honestly, I've been thinking about it, and yeah, man, I didn't realize that this is where this was going to go. But yeah, that's my story. And to me, Salvia is awesome. And I think that I am particularly well set up. Like, I just have the right, not that it's better than a different type of brain or anything like that, but it's just, I have a brain that works well with Salvia. I'm not incredibly risk averse. I'm not very neurotic, which, as like the Big Five personality question, when they say, you know, neurotic, they're talking about highly sensitive to negative emotion. I'm not very much affected by fear or any of that. I don't have I've had maybe 2 or 3 nightmares in my life, and I've always wanted to go back and kill the thing in my nightmare afterwards. Like, I want to do that nightmare over again. I think I could beat it. So is it really a nightmare at that point? Like, I've had a couple of dreams that got my fight or flight response activated, and when I woke up, like, my heart was pounding, and I was like, you know, I'm like, that was a nightmare. And a couple of them were really silly once I thought about them, but, like, for some reason, it was a nightmare. So because of that, I don't think that I'm as prone to have a bad Salvia trip as the average person. That being said, if you hear this video and you're like, Salvia sounds awesome, fucking okay. And it probably will be. And it probably will be for you. If you think it sounds awesome, it probably will be. But if it's not, you're only going to be in the other place, even if it's a nightmare realm that you get plunged into, you're only going to be there for 15 minutes. And then you're going to be back. And it's going to be fine. You'll be fine. I promise you. Smoke a little salvia, go away for 15 minutes, come back. Okay, so even if it's awful, but you do need to be, like, don't do it. Don't do it in a bad state of mind. And don't do it in a scary place. Do it in a place where you feel very safe, you feel very comfortable. Do it in a place where you are very safe.